So President Traoré has just launched one of the greatest, if not the biggest, stadium in the western part of Africa. Can you even believe that? And 90% of this cash, okay, 90% of this cash that is used to build this stadium is not borrowed money. The 90% of cash is coming from the national kitty, that is the Faso Mebo Initiative, okay? A national kitty where all Africans of goodwill, actually within Burkina Faso and outside Burkina Faso, they contribute to make sure that the country is seeing its development. So let's have a look at this stadium, okay, which was under inspection, of course. It's not yet completed. Then when we come back, we can analyze this video further.
The new construction site, the new Agima Stadium with 15,000 seats, located in the 3rd district of Guguju-Lassau, is in its final phase of completion. The Prime Minister, who was accompanied by other members of the government, made the observation. On that very day, June 21st, during a visit to the site, a report by Betty Bienau, Idrissa Karambiri, and Ali Traoré.
At the construction site of the new 15,000-seat Aguemont Stadium, Prime Minister Rim Talba, Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo, and a government delegation listened attentively to the technicians responsible for building the stadium's infrastructure, from the bowl of the stadium to the locker rooms, the enclosure, the first level for VIPs and VVIPs, the area reserved for the press, the 4 screens, the lighting, and the auxiliary fields. The entire process of installing these infrastructures is explained to the delegation in meticulous detail. There
are reasons to be satisfied with the progress of the work, because as far as the stadium bowl is concerned, we are practically over 90% complete. Now, of course, all the related construction sites remain, especially the upper fields, which are currently being built. But also all the other ancillary infrastructures that are necessary for the facility to function. So we have reasons to be satisfied, but of course, it's not time to celebrate yet, because there are still challenges to overcome, especially since the rainy season is starting. So we came to offer words of encouragement to the company and to all the stakeholders involved here in the construction of this facility, and to urge them to redouble their efforts and speed up the pace of work so that as soon as possible this much anticipated infrastructure can be put into service, handed over, and inaugurated.
Once the inauguration takes place in the coming weeks, the new stadium, which is a CAF Category 3 type, should allow Burkina Faso to host more national, sub-regional, and African competitions. It will also serve as a springboard for athletes so they can further develop their various disciplines.
It is a very important and strategic facility. In Burkina today, we only have the August 4th stadium to host international matches and competitions. And so with this stadium, obviously, for Guguju-Lassau and the entire region, we are going to have a modern facility that aligns with the vision that our comrade, the president of Faso.
We appreciate the fact that President Traoré is doing massive development in Burkina Faso just to make sure that the country is seeing its potential. You can remember in 2022, when President Traoré took power, he assumed power through coup. He was saying that, look, when I assumed power here, I found Burkina Faso way back in terms of development. And it is incumbent of me to make sure that this country is realizing its potential. And some of the measures that I'll be taking, me as the president, to make sure that this country is realizing its potential will be drastic. And some of the measures will not be loved by so many, more so our enemies. I'm just quoting what President Traoré was saying. And you can see over the years, since 2022 up to present, some of the measures that this president took to make sure that this country is at least seeing its potential. And the measures are like banning of political parties, because he thinks that banning of political parties were acting as hindrance block towards development. In fact, political parties were dividing the Burkinabes instead of uniting the Burkinabes. So those are some of the issues that Traoré took into place to make sure that Burkina Faso is seeing its potential. And one of the things that amazes me as an African is, I'm not from Burkina Faso, but I'm an African. One of the things that amazes me as an African is a lot of these developments, they are being done by themselves. The money that are being used for this development, they are done or they are contributed by themselves, not borrowed money. No. These are just people who come together, contribute to build their nations. It is as simple as that. So when he's doing that, he is facing multiple issues with the Western government, more so the French government, because you can realize that whenever or when President Traoré assumed power, 90% of Burkina Faso's economy was controlled by the France. So when he assumed power, he chased away France. Okay, this French president who came to Kenya was chased away by Traoré. Okay, so why was he chased away? Because France was a pernicious regime. Okay, so during their tenure in Burkina Faso, there was a lot that was going on that Burkina Faso never realized its potential. So when we see some of this development by Burkina Faso in Burkina Faso by President Traoré, we are appreciating some of the things that are doing. You see, construction of stadium. Okay, one of the biggest stadium in Western Africa, constructed by Traoré. Within a span of 4 years, we are seeing massive development. This week, the country launched massive bridge connecting 2 villages together in Burkina Faso. So those are some of the things that we as Africans should be talking about, because we have to speak about positivity. And when things are not going to the right direction, we also have to speak against the things that are leading us backwards. Things like xenophobia, things that are happening in South Africa. That's why we are speaking against them, because it's incumbent of us, we as Africans, to make sure that Africa is catapulted to another level in matters development. Okay? So kudos to President Traoré. We as Africans, we are proud of you. We are supporting your initiative in Burkina Faso, and you should not listen to the enemies, because when you listen to the enemies, we are not going to see the potential of Burkina Faso. And I'm sure, I am 100% sure, some of the African leaders, they are admiring what you're doing. They are admiring what you're doing. In fact, the only country in Africa whose president is supported 99% by the general population is President Traoré. The country is Burkina Faso. Why? Because they are seeing the massive development that are being done by President Traoré. So if it's your first time here, man, just show me some love. Africa will be great. That's why we are speaking positivity. We are speaking positivity amongst African leaders, amongst African population, so that we as Africans should realize our potential. So if it's your first time here, kindly show me some love by just subscribing to this channel, by just liking this video. See you next time. Bye bye for now. Africa will be great.